Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Journal of Radical Wonders bi-monthly, sometimes monthly reading. This month we have Cindy Rinne, who has put out a fabulous book, um, Dancing Through the Fire Door. And if you know Cindy, well, if you're from the east side of Los Angeles and probably anywhere in Los Angeles, you already know Cindy. And she's a exceptional poet. And I didn't know until a few years ago that she was also an artist because I just don't live in that world. But I guess you're probably more well known for your art than your poetry. Am I right about that?
Well, at this point, it's probably pretty even, but for a long time, definitely the art.
And so I saw a bunch of art in here and expected that she had created the art, but it was done by Alan Van Fleet, who's also here to talk about his work. And we have an open mic as well, as always. This time we have Lee Ellen Shoemaker. So I assume you want to read Lee Ellen.
Actually, I'm not prepared, but I always have something laying around.
Oh,
I also want to say that there's two artists, and the other one is Heather Rinne, and she couldn't be here today, but it was actually her photographs that got this started of the grotto. So she did all the crystals that are in the
uh-huh.
book, which we'll be seeing, and then
Yeah.
Alan did the sculptures. And so I call Alan an alchemist
Uh,
because he knows so much about stones and symbols and things. So we'll talk about that later. So we have
well,
Lynette is here.
and I think either we have a wild coincidence or Heather Rinne is related to you.
Yes, that's my daughter.
Okay.
So quite excited to be published with my daughter for the first time and with my good friend. So I
Okay.
know my sometimes my art is definitely in my books or on the cover, but I decided this time to work with two other artists and have my poems.
Well, that's great. Well, why don't we just let you take it away then? Take away and do your reading.
Okay, now I'll share screen. Okay, we're good now? You can see me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So we already talked about this being a collaboration with two artists, and I'm going to share the introduction. My house burned in 2003. Even the windows melted. The loss was contained in my body as back spasms. The fear of fire strong. Many years later, I decided it was time for a new iteration of self, to befriend and integrate the fire. I danced with Pele, the Hawaiian goddess of volcanoes and fire, allowing her inside. Fire as volcano or basalt is a character in the book. Water remembers through all existence. Water as womb, as body. I accepted the healing and went forward. Water became a character as a nymph throughout the book, and her name is Journey. You'll meet her early on in the poems. So this is a book of water and fire, of grief and gratitude, and a collaboration of a poet and two artists. So here's a listing of the artists. Alan goes by A.E. Van Fleet. I'm happy he can join us today. And then Heather Rinne is my daughter. And this was published by Nauset Press. So I was finding a press who was willing to do this much artwork. And she loved the story behind the book. And she wrote my first publisher's letter in a book. This is book 15, and I'm just delighted about that because the story touched her so much. But I also, with this book, wanted to bring in keywords and journeys and have it as a self-help book. So every image and every poem has a keyword. So when I read today, I'm going to say the keyword first. And I developed these just through intuition, and then the title and read the poem. So I've already, there's Ellen. This was the first time at a zine fest. I had the book. I've done performance. I've had a book signing, and the bottom right picture is last night I did a performance with Katya Haj, and she played the qanun, and it was just all of it's magical. So this book has been getting out in the world. I've had a launch, and I have today to share with you. So this is Witness. This art is by Ellen. Cleanse. Water goes where it wishes. The water goddess dwells inside a baobab tree. She caresses the inner bark. No tree rings. Spells cascade from her hands like a waterfall pounds the earth. She names a nymph Journey. Dear rough emerald, oh, the word is dreams. Waterfalls flow through me. My chakras open. Messages arrive from wind, stones, trees, and cloud people. Focus. We give you energy for friendship, success, and peace. I lie on the sand and birth planets to the rhythm of the waves. You witness my ritual as I transform into the enchantress. You remind me to step back from intimidation and become grounded in the earth of myself. Encourage me to reach for grandfather's son. Clarity comes in a flood of ideas, dreams. My body spins lost in a trance as I listen to your quiet heart. You ask me to pay attention to signs and omens, while Otter takes me to the deep places of unspoken wisdom. Dear body, surrender. You carry me through many years, injury, sickness, and birth pains. Hair grows from dark brown to gray, wrinkles form, skin sags. Need a rest or go for a walk. You enjoy a friend's hug. You make it through a pandemic. You believe and hold the sacred. Slavic ancestors from Poland and Ukraine become guides. Whale totem sings of the deep time. Born from stardust, you grasp new ideas in poems, performance, and fiber art. I dress you in fun textures and patterns. A pioneer, you palm read the destiny of others. So this photograph is by Heather Rinne, and it's a grotto of the Redemption that's in Northwest Iowa. It's supposed to be the largest grotto in the world. And when she sent me these pictures, I was like, wow, I want to do something with these. And then the keyword oracle idea came from, I had all these poems with different goddesses and different experiences, and I didn't know how to link them together. And it felt like oracle cards. And so I just got keywords and put them together that way. Although Journey does run through the poems, that happened later. I have a bell to share. Let's see.
Oh, we can hear it.
Can't hear it? Okay. Okay. I thought I'd try.
There's a setting, by the way, that you can turn on that will let you hear extraneous sounds. Otherwise, the default is it screens out.
Okay. That's okay. Oh, no problem. It's beautiful bells. Overcome. Self-forgiveness. I dance with Pele through the fire door. Burnt trees survive. I wear their branches as a crown of protection. Tree of life etches into my back, a hollow place where leaves swirl. I leave a community for the pulse of the universe. I don't have to apologize or explain. The courage of my ancestors, when a meteor slices midpoint through the Milky Way, I am safe in constellation dark. Linger, breathe, fall in love with myself. Nature's alchemy, the word is guidance and trust. Sky meditates her gaze to the heart of earth, extracts and dispenses her treasures. A conjurer? Love water earth struggles while light is shaped by imaginary gusts of wind, recognizing Journey's voice in each starling. Sky thinks she's a jewel, observes birth and rebirth of plants, rocks, and stones, all animated in their homage as markers of time. Season. Water goes where it wishes to. A slight breeze, sunken treasure, the water goddess reflects on the still lake. Rainbows receive their power from the magical mirror. Volcanic fire sparks up her spine, igniting all chakras, a protective aura. Challenge. Devotion of bedrock and bone. Record keeper stoops over her inner realm of bedrock and organic matter. There's fire in her belly. She transitions from life to death. What is already dead inside? Her bones contain DNA sequences of her ancestors. She listens to each part of her body. Holy in community, through the temple door, path to the sacred grove, devotion lost, many in discord with plants and animals. Is tenderness wrong? Missed. She points to Demeter's tree, hangs mementos of answered prayers. Fog dissipates. What is left? So on May 1st, my mother passed, and I selected these poems, next two poems, because she's in there. And the original, this next poem, Spiral Open, I actually wrote about someone else, but my mother came into the poem at that time. And so this just feels like the perfect time to share them. Tenderness, Spiral Open. Sound of gongs and breath as vibrations remind you her last sigh, when flowers bow and dance, the song of her laughter, sound of gongs, sweet scent. Now you see her face in magnolia flower, sweet scent, laughter's song, her favorite perfume, amber and nectarine. Black and white photographs depict wavy bob, wide skirt, her future self unknown. Partial sight in one eye, she watches the world askew. See her smile, this garden of grief. Solitary tears curve your face, her last sigh, the memory. Spiral, garnet moon. Garnet moon reflects garden of grief, partial sight, future self, flowers bow and dance. She told you about ancestors immigrating from Ukraine to New York, their belief in a God whose name can't be spoken. Breath is vibration, solitary. The last gong struck with a felt beater spirals from the center in a hollow pitch, the world askew. So while I was putting this book together, I thought I had the poems done, and I was working with Alan and Heather about the art. And then I got really sick a couple years ago, and I'm okay, but I was really sick, and I decided to write poems from that space of being really ill and not knowing what's going to happen, instead of trying to look back, because it's different in how you perceive. And so soundscapes, this poem, the keyword is listen. is the next two poems are from that time. Apollo's snakes hiss in Cassandra's ears with prophecies no one later will believe. Chaos in my body listens for secrets of the dark. I cup my ears, echoes map the landscape, red rock pinnacles, temple pillars, goose honks wisdom at sunset. Witches chant, gather herbs to heal, ginger, calendula, fennel. Plants grow from my legs, I paint their presence with my song. Vocal memories of my lineage whisper what was and returning. I massage my earlobes. Wellness calls me. Mm. So this next part, it's in three parts, but the words are action, learn, and peace. So I like to write magical realism. So I had, fun with this. Garden of Calm. Seek, dear goddess, crowned with a rack made of petrified wood for protection, with calming calcite spots. She wanders, never takes the same path. Be like a be a deer stalker in desperation, cunning, but not to kill her. 2. Return to the wilderness inside you. Use intuition to discern which river to follow. Select a stone who calls. Offer it to the water. Toss the rock into the eddies. Call the river's name out loud. Give thanks to journey. At dusk, between the waking and the sleeping, discover the four-legged sage near the bank, a forest mother born of water and wind. Her fur of crimson columbines, bronze bells, and pine-sap flowers like a garden of calm. 3. Listen to her gentle voice. The goddess enlightens to see obstacles as pebbles, not boulders. She directs me to leave an old friend for the new. Ask one question. I crochet the inquiry. Her kind eyes peer deep into mine. Dear goddess says, what if flowers have no seeds or crystals no facets? Do not seek answers. Be the answer from within. She disappears into the western U, leaving a balm for wounds. So we have duality, flow, and present. Rose goddess bee moon. Moon knows about the bees, even if they sleep under her watch. Roses share secrets with journey. She oversees a fertile ground, light and shadow sides of her. Protect against depression as honey melts. So I'm going to close with the last poem in the book. Beginning again. So we have objects, identity, and discern. Feathers and bones in her hands, decaying antlers enrich the earth. Primal temptress charms the winds, a sparrow deprived of the oxygen of myth. Journey journals during the art, poetry, meditation. Each breath marks a page. She says goodbye to her stream, creates traction written from the womb. Fire in the third chakra, a mandala of trees, and the sun's aura burns what she decides to forget. Beginning again, across her shoulder, seeds fan into passion flowers. She outlines with Gouda flames of rebirth. Before rains fall and grasses reach, she is formless. So now I want to turn it over to, thank you, to Alan. I thought it'd be fun if he could share a little bit about his art and the process of collaboration.
Yes, so I think from an early age I was always kind of fascinated with plants and stones, and then in high school as I started drifting further into the pop culture of the 90s, I found the I guess what we would call I have mixed feelings about the word, but I guess the occult and magic, and studying that from a very kind of scholarly stance, and trying to understand all the symbolism at play, and just sticking with that kind of study of these different kinds of books about materials and their symbols through college. I had kind of developed this material language that I was playing with. And Cindy was kind of along for the ride and was like, I like all of the, material and the symbolism. And over what, Cindy, 2 years,
Yes.
we would we would meet up and have breakfast for 3, 4 hours some days. And I was kind of teaching her all the things that I had learned along my journey, and how my art might be able to help her tell her story. So we were able to use the symbolism I was already working with in my art, and almost kind of reappropriate it to help tell Cindy's story, and still stay true to all the things that I had kind of programmed in, but letting Cindy kind of make the choices, and the
Mhm.
and that and so it was very meaningful to me to be able to kind of guide Cindy through this realm of kind of magic and symbolism and material. And it was a very, I think, meaningful experience for both of us, to
Yes.
kind of learn from each other. And I really felt like I was kind of adopted into the family, like
That's
her
right.
daughter was in the book and I was in the book. Like I just felt through the process that I was, part of the process, and she kind of became a part of my process too, so so yeah, I think that um just being able to share my love of symbolism and materiality with her really helped, um kind of me practice kind of being a teacher, and then her really take and own all this kind of symbolism that we were going over the course of a couple years, to kind of inform her poems, because a lot of them weren't written. And then, like Cindy had said, plans would change and new poems had to be written in response to those events. So, um, yeah, I hope that was what you were looking for,
Yeah,
Cindy. I'm happy to answer
absolutely. I
any
can't
more
thank Alan
specific.
enough for spending countless hours. And I asked him, so Alan knows a lot about the stones, and I asked him if I needed to identify them somewhere in the book, and he said no. And my feeling is that there's a lot of books about crystals and stones and their meanings, and I didn't need to do another one. And I even, spoke to another friend, and she's like, it's a poetry book. You don't have to identify everything. And so that's when I was able to come in and do the keywords by intuition. They just came in a flood like at 3 in the morning. And then, but I did work with the symbolism of the stones and tying them with the poems. But it's okay if the reader doesn't know all that to me, but we do. I don't have to explain. I don't think everything has to be explained, But you can see how beautiful these pieces are, and they do have meaning, and so it works together. So I don't know if anyone has any questions, or John, if you want to go. Okay.
Yeah, as I was watching all these images, a lot of them were kind of stones in the wild. And I was just wondering how you go out and find these. And it must be more significant than going to, the mall and buying the stone to actually get the stone and kind of raise it yourself, as it were.
Are you talking
Yeah,
about the photographs or Alan's pieces?
Either way.
Okay, so I'll let Alan answer that, but the photographs are actually of a grotto. What happened was this priest was dying. This is way back in the 30s or 40s, and he said to Mary, if you heal me, I'll build this grotto. And so all these pictures, the photographs are from this grotto. He spent many, many years. In fact, he passed it, another priest finished it. What's interesting is at the time that he did it, it was legal to move petrified wood and stalactites from Carlsbad Caverns. And so all these shells and petrified wood, all of that's there. He wasn't doing anything wrong at the time. You can't do that now. So it's a historical marker in a sense, and it's amazing. I did go visit. It's huge. I mean, there's stairways to climb and there's caverns, and it's giant size. Now, Alan can talk about where he gathers his materials.
I scour every, no pun intended, but every stone. Um, I'm originally from Blythe, California, so I'm originally from the desert, way out in the desert. And every year in Arizona, we would have a rock show in Quartzsite. And so that's kind of where my fascination with stones kind of started. I'm able to look at them and identify them just because I've always had this um, fascination, this I don't know, the sense of this kind of the feeling that you get when you're in the ocean, that the water calls to you, the same kind of thing like they call to me.
Mm.
So I get them at rock shows. I get them on Etsy. I will have long conversations with the seller. Well, what kind of green is it? Can you take a picture with this light? Can you take a picture under that light? Can you? So I'm very, even if I buy them online, I'm very meticulous about like what am I getting? Where is it coming from? How does it look? What color is it? It goes through a very long process. Some of these things I have found just in nature myself. So I have picked them up off the ground, um, any method possible to get the meaning that I'm looking for in each piece. Um, so like for instance, the pine cones in this piece is pine cones are kind of a symbol of earth, a symbol of fertility. They also have this kind of association with fire, right? The seeds come out when the cones burn. So all these kinds of things are kind of attributes associated with a pine cone, earth, fire, um, you know, plants. And then the peridot below that is very much about that too in a different way, but it's a stone, it's green, it's about life and nature. So kind of pairing these two things in, in for me brings a very kind of earthy kind of quality or earthy kind of energy. So that's kind of the process is I'm finding them for what I believe them to be their kind of uh, the energies attributed to them. And then I'm mixing them to get different meanings, almost like a sentence. There's a syntax to each one of my pieces. There's usually a stone, a plant, a metal, and then usually another element sometimes. And if we kind of want, and this was before I was playing D&D, but if we want to kind of bring that full circle, because I think that's relevant, and think of it as a component for a spell and how they each bring an attribute that when combined set that off somehow. That's very much my thought process is that these are all ingredients to a spell, and I'm trying to trying to summon a particular kind of energy with each piece.
You can see why we had fabulous conversations.
Yeah.
And I have to say that with the art, I had selected a lot more images and had to tone it back a bit because I just enjoyed what both of them created.
Right. All right. And it
Oh,
looks like Leellen has a question.
Actually, it, I'm not sure how to pose it as a question, but in my mind's eye, when you were describing the language and the symbolism, and then when you were describing the images and the gems and the symbolism, it was like two paths moving alongside, creating sort of like as a surprise, this energetic middle path that brings the symbol and I like the fact that you tentatively use the word occult, but a mysterious middle energetic way of understanding it that teased me because I want to see the words and the images together. So I have to do it in my mind. And it was so, the energy was so beautiful. It must have been wonderful, those breakfasts meetings.
yes.
It's just you took me a little ways away because we're so limited by this medium, but I would love to have been a pat of butter on your table. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you for the beautiful observation. That's successful for us. Means it's successful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. Lavanya, you might have a question. I just saw you turn off your mute, so I thought you might.
Well, actually, I was thinking about someone that I'd heard of recently, and I don't know how much this relates, but in general, Jane Bennett, who's at John Hopkins, I think she's a philosopher as well as forget exactly what position she holds there, but she has written some pretty esoteric books, which I haven't yet been able to get through, but about the objects, supposedly inanimate objects, having agency, where we're not only we're attracted to things. She does start out in one book talking about hoarding, how people really like to have a lot of, some people like to have a lot of things around them, and they're distressed when they don't have these things. So in some small way, I think it might relate to the idea of, stones and crystals. And I've bought books on them. I don't understand exactly, but I think there is some sort of agency in stones and crystals, and they're attractive to us, a lot of people. And there's something going on there that is sort of inexplicable, but so interesting.
I have a story for that. I agree with you. So a year ago, my dad passed. So my mom and dad just passed exactly 1 year apart on May 1st. And so I was going to the desert when I found out about him, and I was upset, and I stopped in a shop I'd never been in before, talked to this person I'd never seen before, never saw again, but she said some things and I knew she knew something about stones. And I said, I need something to pull myself together because later today I've got to read poetry. I just, actually I lost 2 people in my life that week. And I was just like, I need to pull myself together. And she said, rose quartz. So I bought a piece of rose quartz and I'm driving away and I put it on my heart and I literally felt better. And that was, I mean, I have lots of stones and different things, but that was the strongest example. And I did the reading. I mean, it worked. And I was like, wow, okay. I mean, I already believe in this stuff, but I hadn't experienced it that directly. And so I do believe there's agency, and I selected a stone for a friend yesterday and I took the time, like, which one am I going to get for her? And so thank you for sharing that because I do believe it.
Mhm.
Do too. I believe we're the ones that give it agency. It's our energy, our magic that brings meaning. Because that making meaning is magic, at least for me and Cindy. It's a magical experience.
Mhm.
So I don't know, I think that's definitely something me and Cindy like have bonded over is just our love and our kind of fascination with this idea of magic and all its kind of facets.
Mhm. Well, magic is just something we haven't, um, and there's always going to be something you just can't explain.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's like the beauty of it. And we have poetry and art to like help us do that in
Mhm.
forever.
Mhm. Yes.
Great. All right. Well, any final questions or comments for Cindy or Ellen?
No, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Why don't we move then to the open mic? And we have two people today. We have Lee Ellen and Lavina. And we'll start with Lee Ellen.
Thank you. I just been working on some stuff. Let's see what I've got here. Okay. This is, I'll just read it. I don't know what it is. The coffee hour sun peeks through the overcast on West Portal Avenue. The sidewalk is a gushing surf. Back in the day, I could navigate this current with ease, but these days my steps are a slow waltz, punctuated by the rhythmic tap of my cane. I watch people and pets stream by, a blur of colorful backpacks and pauses at street shrubs for sniffing sessions. I sometimes feel like a beached barge, an obstacle in a fast-flowing world. I used to weave through the crowd headed for my coffee and treat at the Noe Valley Bakery. Now each step is a calculated decision, a negotiation with my aging legs. I envy the effortless way they glide past their adventures, a soundtrack to an urban ballet. Often a kind smile or patient nod from a passerby makes my day, but mostly there's a silent impatience, a subtle jostle of shoulders, a muttered excuse me that feels more like an accusation. So I take a deep breath and straighten my spine. I may be slower, but I'm not invisible. A smile and a friendly hello to a fellow walker, a wave to the barista who remembers my usual order, a moment to admire the vibrant flower display at the hardware store next to the bakery. These small connections remind me that I'm still part of the flow, even if I move at a different pace. The truth is, the world needs more than just hurried efficiency. It needs a kind word, a patient smile, a moment to appreciate the simple beauty around us. Perhaps my slow walk is an invitation to others to slow down, to savor the journey instead of just the destination. Maybe, just maybe, my slow pace and cane are not a symbol of what I've lost, but a reminder of the experiences I've gained and the stories etched in my memory. And maybe, just maybe, in this fast-paced world, there's still room for a slow walk and an observant heart.
Mm. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Lavina,
Should I just read one?
up to 5 minutes, whatever you like.
Oh, okay. Just a second here. Let me find. Okay, this one's. I struggle to submit my poems, so this one is called Submit. I crafted several birds, sent them off to one house, then another. They were flown straight back, rarely marked, although occasionally missing feathers. Not meadowlarks, but I had taught them a meadowlark song. The recipients apparently were not charmed. I modeled a single gerbil, plump, round-cheeked, showed it around. Being cuter and soft, it drew some attention, even encouragement. I put together a few more. Pretty soon, one was taken. The others fought. Though jealous and edgy, they nipped and clawed, complained the one newly placed was the runt, gawky, a kiss-up. I clipped their nails, muzzled them, did my best to train them to keep their heads low, behave like the brother who'd found a good home. They sniped and moaned and sulked. I made lizards for a while, aware they needed training, being prone to dart, then freeze. I persuaded a number of them to stand on hind legs, tried to teach them the two-step. They grew belligerent, flattened their bodies to the wall, bared their sharp little teeth. Costuming them proved futile. They carped about being smothered, tore at their clothes. When they were naked again, I let them go sun themselves on rocks, catch insects with their agile tongues. Drained of enthusiasm, I put together 6 ladybugs. They escaped out the windows. One, though, laid a tiny yellow egg before it left. A surprisingly fragile gift, if that's what it was. Possibly a dud. Yet I'm giving it room, its own room. I'm calling it Bud. Nudging it, can't stop myself, but not pressing or squeezing it into any particular form. I'm waiting, in no great hurry, to see what it might become.
Nice.
So I could read one more if
Please.
there's time.
Yes.
This one's called From the Near Dark. Mutation by mutation, aquatic creatures in gyrations of genetic adaptation evolved into an awesome and grotesquely strange creation called the deep-sea anglerfish. This common name comes from a small appendage that the female waves above her open lips, a luminescent piece of dorsal spine. One species, being large and round, waddles as she swims, the enticement jiggling to draw her dinner in. Teeth that curve backward leave slim chance for prey to struggle free, and her jaw stretches very wide so that she's capable of swallowing a body twice her size. As for the males, when their digestive systems start to fail, they bite into a female's side. She can carry up to 6, each 1/10 her bulk. He exudes enzymes that dissolve his mouth, her skin. Blood vessels blend, and much of him then atrophies until he hangs from her, a fleshy barnacle, ready to let go sperm when her inner workings signal now. She has been called Black Devil, and her partners parasites. They merge and mate for life, produce their quirks of progeny against the odds, as atmosphere and tide warm, as the world drifts into the next great shift and quickening that may or may not carry them into the next millennium.
Hmm. All right. Well, thank you very much. I don't know much about crystals, but I know more now than I did an hour ago. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And thank you to everybody on the open mic. And thank you, Ellen. Love your art.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Cindy and Alan.
Oh, thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
I like the poems, your poems about slowing and resting and observing is
Yeah.
certainly vital.